that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
The Great Depression, which began in 1929, was one of the most devastating economic downturns in United States history. After enjoying nearly a decade of economic growth and prosperity, the nation suddenly faced a period of great despair. On October 29, 1929, also known as Black Tuesday, investors sold 16 million shares of stock, which would become the start of the Great Depression. In addition to the crash of the stock market, the Great Depression also resulted in the collapse of 25,000 banks, the closing of many factories, a rise in poverty and crime rates, and the highest unemployment rates the nation had ever seen, with 13 million unemployed Americans. It became one of the darkest periods of American history. Despite the extraordinary impact of the Great Depression, President Hoover reassured Americans that the nation would quickly recover. He took a strong position that the government should not intervene in the economics of the nation. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected in 1932 and felt very differently. He believed that the government had a responsibility to intervene in the economics and that the people had a right to economic recovery. He gave Americans hope that through government intervention, the economy of the United States could be repaired.
My friends,
this is a day of national consecration, and I am certain that on this day my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people entails. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Roosevelt committed to the nation that the government would provide relief, recovery, and reform, known as the 3 R's. He launched a program called the New Deal, which was a series of comprehensive social and economic programs governed by 15 new laws. President Roosevelt convened a special session for Congress in 1933, which came to be called the 100 Days Session, where much of the New Deal legislation was passed. The bank crisis was one of the most critical issues that President Roosevelt needed to address through the New Deal. President Roosevelt closed all of the nation's banks for 3 days to assess the health of the bank industry. Congress passed the Banking Act of 1933 with the goal of restoring confidence in banks. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, known as FDIC, was created, which offered insurance on deposits up to $5,000. President Roosevelt utilized one of his famous fireside chats to encourage Americans to place their money back in banks which were now insured, successfully rebuilt trust in the U.S. banking system. The Works Progress Administration, or WPA, was one of the largest New Deal programs and was executed between 1935 to 1943. This new agency created employment for greater than 3 million Americans in public works projects, including the construction and repair of schools, dams, hospitals, and roads. This New Deal program substantially helped reduce unemployment and spent over $13 million. The Civilian Conservation Corps Act, also known as CCC, assisted in reducing unemployment and provided job training. The government provided funding for planting trees, building public parks, draining swamps, restocking rivers with fish, implementing flood control projects, and other environmental projects. This program gave employment to 2.5 million unmarried men and included free board and job training. The 1935 Social Security Act was one of the most famous of the New Deal acts. It was created to reduce poverty levels for senior citizens. Under this act, the Social Security Administration was created. The government implemented a new national program that offered income to retired wage earners, and federal aid was given to dependent children, handicapped, and the blind. This program still exists today and is funded by wage earners and their employers. Another important New Deal program was the Tennessee Valley Authority Act, known as TVA, that was implemented on April 10, 1933. This act had the goal of improving conditions in the Tennessee River Valley. It funded the reactivation of a hydroelectric power plant, providing cheap electric power, flood control, and economic development to the entire Tennessee River Valley, which was one of the poorest areas of the United States. Lastly, one of the most controversial and complex programs of the New Deal was the 1933 National Industry Recovery Act, which impacted labor and industry would later be found to be unconstitutional. This act included legislation that would ensure healthy competition, limit the number of hours that an employee could work, create a minimum wage, and allow collective bargaining for labor workers. There were many other New Deal programs, totaling 15. Critics of the New Deal felt that the program only had short-term impact and did not plan for the future of the United States, that it did not have enough impact on unemployment, that it did not benefit women or African Americans, that it never really ended the Depression. Some historians believe that the Depression did not really end until World War II. There were, however, benefits from the New Deal that were undisputable. The New Deal created millions of new jobs, resulted in many public works projects, restored the banking industry, and created the Social Security program. In addition, it was the first time that the government took responsibility for ensuring that the nation had a right to economic stability, brought hope to the nation during one of the darkest periods in American history, and will forever remain a part of President Roosevelt's legacy.